Hi, and welcome to the newest episode of Southeast of Normal with Iqbal, the founder of Ground. Now, I know Iqbal from the time that we did the cohort 13 at Accelerating Asia. So, Iqbal, maybe just give a quick introduction to yourself and what you do now.
Cool. Thanks for having me here, Osman. Really excited to be here. So primarily, I'm an aerospace engineer who started working with a startup called Airlift, and I started learning the spirit of execution and entrepreneurship during my time at Airlift. Right after that, started working as an early teammate at Metal, a company that got funded by YC, and in recent that's where I was before starting something of my own. So based on all the skill set that I learned during the last decade, that's what I'm looking to apply at Ground. So with Ground, we're building an operating system that helps functional managers manage their team and functions in a more efficient manner. So that's where we are.
Cool. I mean, so if we just quickly just touch on, your original origin story, we'll definitely come into talking about Ground shortly. But most people know you through Ground today. But if we went back 10 years, what were you actually doing at Airlift? I mean, what was your obsession there?
Yeah, I think this is something that's really close to me. As I tell everybody this how this journey started. So I was literally going to the airport because I used to work over there as an aerospace engineer. When I saw the airlift board for their mass transit business, I went in, sent in a cold email to the founder, Bull, and like within the next 24 or 48 hours, we were literally taking a walk around the block, as they would call it at Airlift. Had a really special conversation with the founder, and who knew it, like 3 days later or 4 days later, I get an offer, and like on the seventh day, I'm literally in the airlift office. I just remember that it was such a big deal for everybody in the family that you're quitting your job at such a huge organization and giving it up for a startup that we don't even know exists. And I think that's been probably the best decision of my life. The sort of learnings that I've had during that time and the sort of opportunities that I was provided to learn and execute and express myself. I think that's an experience that people should always strive for. Like the way I started learning about these operating principles that help you execute better. The way I learned about what startups really are, like why do you want to move fast? Some of these fundamentals, like what is how startups question things from a first principles basis, things like this, which question the fundamentals of how things are being run, and then you do it in a much better manner. That's one key takeaway from the many that I had at Airlift. So that's where this journey of entrepreneurship started for me.
All right. I mean, these are the type of things that everyone wants to hear about because, especially, I'm Pakistani as well. If I said to my parents now that I'm quitting my job for this startup, I mean, there's going to be so much anguish, right? I mean, you must have really pushed against the grain to do this. I mean, so what specifically were you tasked with at Airlift when you were there? Was it anything specific, or was it a typical founder journey where everything was just deal with it and work out how to do something?
Yeah, I mean, I consider myself super lucky, and I tell this to everybody that I'm indebted to the Airlift team and the experience and the opportunity that I personally was given. I came in on the transit business, and I was looking after the supply side where I had to onboard hundreds of buses that used to run around the city, taking our like taking customers from different routes to different places. And during that time, COVID came in. Unfortunately, like about 80% of the team got laid off, and I was one of those who still were able to stay with the business and moved into the second leg of the business. That was that was the quick commerce business. In the quick commerce journey, we were literally like five people sitting on a table, figuring things out, how to go about it. I took on the supply side again for the business, where eventually I was responsible for onboarding about 450 plus suppliers or manufacturers, what you would call them, and they were the ones who would provide inventory to us. With that, I was also responsible for building the 80 plus warehouses that we had. And the most exciting journey for me was while I was building a warehouse we used to call as the mothership warehouse, where literally I would spend days and nights living inside that warehouse, because that's the warehouse that used to stock up all our smaller warehouses across the city, like the hub and spoke model. So I was literally on the hub while the team was working with tech. The team was in the head office working with on other things. So I was on the front lines sharing all the details, how we want to set up the technology for it, how we want to set up the product for it, and how do we actually want to run operations that end up fulfilling inventory to all these smaller warehouses across the city. So that's what I was taking on, and I think I would do that over and over again just because of everything that I learned and experienced during that time.
Yeah, I mean, and like everyone's heard of Airlift. I mean, if you're in the startup ecosystem, you know of Airlift, you know the story. And I'm not going to dwell on trying to ask anything around, well, what happened, because I think that's been done to death. But specifically, I think what most people want to know is, what is it actually like being on the inside of a company like Airlift when it's scaling and growing that quickly? I mean, are there any things that you can share in terms of lessons, and what does it feel like?
100%. I think one thing that I learned a lot during that time was that your companies, they're obviously built on fundamentals of the business, they're built on so many other things. But what matters is the value system and the sort of culture that you have within your organizations. That for me is the foundation that takes you into the next stage, and you can handle everything. Like we were seeing our growth like quadruple, not even like double or triple. Like we were seeing our growth quadruple month over month, and we were like in a really exciting position. But what was driving us forward, apart from the systems and technology, it was that mindset of just winning, just getting things done, just being there and making sure that everybody is taking ownership for what's happening. 100%. Things had to break. Things did break. Like there were times when we would run out of stock. So I was the one, as like the head of supply chain, I would be running to stores with my own credit card, buying inventory directly just to serve the end consumer. Because in our culture, in our value system, the consumer or our customer was the most important thing. So we made sure that we did everything in the world to serve the consumer. And it didn't matter. Like you'd see the founder, like Bo, incredible founder. Like you'd see him on the front lines when it mattered the most. And I just felt like as a team, we always used to do much better in times of adversity rather than in times of when things were in normal state.
Things are going well.
When the Airlift had to shut down, like it was news like the talk of the town, because we dreamt and because we dreamed to be so big. Like we were like the biggest ones. Kids who had not even touched 30, and they were talking about like $120 million in funding, which is about like a percentage of the total GDP of a country like Pakistan. So you were gonna make waves. Like we were on a call with the Prime Minister office and everything, but we didn't take it to our head. Like we were laser focused on building something that was gonna be historic, and we're proud of everything that we've achieved. So that's how it was.
Yeah. So I mean, what one pointed question then? Looking back, was there a decision you wish like Airlift had made 6 months earlier, or a lot earlier than what was made?
Yeah, I think everybody, like this definitely comes up on the table a lot. Like, and I take it on myself personally, not like people on the team, because I was on the same table taking those decisions with everybody. Like there was no difference between people being founders, like people just coming into the organization. Like it was the decision that had to make sense. If I go back, maybe we would have spent 6 to 8 more months in Pakistan only rather than going to South Africa. Not because we were going to burn money in South Africa. Maybe we should have focused more on solidifying our product. Maybe we should have focused more on operations. Maybe we should have looked more into the challenges forefront on what would happen when half of our team would be focused on South Africa. It wasn't about the problems that we would face by taking our product or technology what we saw is that when half of the leadership was focused on South Africa and half of it was in Pakistan, we were slowing down rather than accelerating on decision making.
Okay.
So that's how I look back at it. But in terms of execution or moving forward, 100%, we would still want to do that over and over again to make sure that we're growing. So that's how I personally look at it. And when I say I should look at it, once I was on that table, I should have put my foot down that, hey, let's not go to South Africa today, because I was the one who was leading going to South Africa as well. So I should have been the one with my hand raised up, like let's not go. But we took a collective decision, and that's how it is. But it's also important to see how the market was back in time. You look at Bitir, you look at Gorilla, they were raising like $400 million, $500 million rounds, and they were going into multiple countries all at a time. So maybe we saw that it's an opportunity for us to do something similar. But when we look back at it, maybe we should have focused more on solidifying Pakistan.
Got it. Okay, so and this is a question we get asked all the time as well by founders. Like, we're gonna grow to a new country, and what you're telling me is get your core house in order,
100%.
Focus on that niche, execute perfectly, or not even perfectly, but execute with competence, and then once you're ready and you're not going to distract yourself, then look at the foreign markets.
Yeah, I remember Gul used to talk to us like, hey, Shariar, if you're leading supply chain and one fine day you decide you want to go to an island somewhere in France for a week, what happens to supply chain? Can it run autonomously? If it's not there, just ask that to yourself. If it cannot run autonomously, your function is not built yet. So that's how we used to look at it. And that's how founders today need to look at their organization. That, hey, if you're not there in the office for 2 weeks, do your operations still run in the same efficient manner as they would with you? That's probably one way to look at things.
Okay, it's interesting. I'm going to compare that to my experience in large enterprise, and most people that I know, the middle managers, they would reluctantly take leave because they didn't want their senior managers to feel like, hey, I can do without this guy because he was away for 2 weeks and everything ran. Where in actual fact, the reality is, if you have got a team that works efficiently and you can take a step back, you've fulfilled your function, and now you can spend time focusing on something else. We often get told that, but large enterprise, middle management, they often feel that they have to be there all the time to prove that they're worth something or prove that they're adding value. So it's interesting to hear that from yourself, that the mindset was really around, you've succeeded if the team can function when you take a step back. And in startup, that has to be the case. You can't just rely on one person, and that goes for a founder as well. Like, if the founder disappears tomorrow, does the company survive? And often that's what investors are usually looking at as well. That's usually the debate that we have about single founder and co-founders, and are we taking on a larger than average risk by doing that? We can touch on that in a little bit as well. Now, when we first talked to you as well, I mean, most people would have taken a break from Airlift after Airlift finished, but you didn't. You actually went ahead and started up on Metal. Why did you do that? Why did you just decide, hey, look, I don't need a break, I'm going to go straight into this new journey with Gul at Metal?
100%. And Osman, there's one more thing that I would love to use this forum to share, that
Sure.
The day we shut down Airlift, I don't think that's the day when we stopped working. Like, if you look at when we started Metal, they were like 6 to 8 months in between. What were we doing then? As a team, we took a collective responsibility that we had to shut down the business as well. We had to shut the shop. So everybody stalled their careers as well. And we were in the office every day, executing in the right manner, making sure we're shutting down the business. You're talking about thousands of delivery riders that we had to pay out. We had to make sure we were giving out severance to a really big team of teammates that we were working with. And they were everybody we were working with. Similarly, you're talking about 450 plus manufacturers that we were working with. we had stock, we had inventory in our warehouses, and we had this responsibility of the whole ecosystem on our shoulders. What if we did not take that, and what if we did not close the shop in the right manner? What would have happened? The ecosystem would have not trusted you. Would Coca-Cola or Nestle or Pepsi have given back inventory to all the players who were still in the market, who were still operating? Because the biggest player in the market had just evaporated in thin air. We made sure that we cleared each and every debt. We made sure that we did not leave anybody hanging. We returned inventory back to our manufacturers and suppliers against what was given to us. So it was a huge responsibility for the next 6 to 8 months, where we had to shut down the business, both on the operational front, on the financial front, on so many fronts. So that's the next thing that we did as a team. And then right after that, because we were still sticking together, we just made sure that we had to execute again. And the best part is, when you look at metal, we got confidence from the same people, the same investors who had invested in Airlift. They ended up backing us in metal as well, because they trusted what we had done during our time at Airlift. They trusted what the founders were doing, and what that they were mission-oriented founders. So that's the biggest takeaway that we can have. And then obviously, like, starting off with metal, it was very obvious that we couldn't just wither away with everything that we had learned during Airlift. It was definitely something that we had to do again, get right, and make sure that we can make something that's unimaginably big. And metal is in a really, really exciting position. I'm sure you're following it, probably using it as well. So that's where we are.
All right. I mean, and this is ultimately the thing that I would ask any founder that's watching this now, is that integrity matters a lot, not just for yourself, but for the actual ecosystem that you're a part of. And so what Gull had done and the team at Airlift had done was worked with integrity and worked with class. It's very easy for a founder to just say, yeah, we're done, and then default on everything and let the company just go to the wall. The repercussions of doing it incorrectly would have been massive. You're absolutely right, and it shows that with that, Gull and the team were able to then spin up metal with very little in lack of trust, because the trust was there. Here's a founder that can build, grow, scale, and if things don't work out, make the quick decision to wind it up, but wind it up with all of the correct things in place. Winding it up with, payments to suppliers, payments to your employees, and returning money to investors where you can. So I think that really makes a difference between, like, a founder with zero integrity and one that has got integrity, that you can survive even if your original idea didn't result in the outcome that you hoped for. So with that, I mean, you've talked a little bit about the amount of work and effort that you did, and then you went and decided that you were going to do Driftly. So I mean, I know that you've pivoted since then, but, like, let's just talk about what convinced you that Driftly was worth starting, and then also let's touch on your decision as a founder to say, this isn't really what I'm hoping to achieve here, and the pivot that you subsequently did to ground.
Yeah, I think that's again a very interesting decision, and I have this discussion internally with myself as well, and externally with again, I have to give it to Gul, Ahmed, everybody who's so far been very close and have been supporting me. So it was more about, hey, I came in at Airlift and Metal like about 6-8 years ago, and I've learned so much. I've completely I feel like I've done myself. Now I just feel like I'm at a stagnation point in my career and personally. I think it's time for me to grow a new skin, like set myself up for a new challenge where I want to put myself into testing waters to try myself out and make sure that all the skill sets that I've acquired during the previous time, I'm able to deploy them into building something that's going to give like huge value. The first natural shift was definitely towards FMCG, towards solving a problem for goods distribution, because I had been so intricately involved in goods distribution during all this time that I'd spent at Airlift previously. So it was a very natural progression. I started off, we were doing really well, got our first couple of contracts, and we were executing. However, this is where I would love to talk a little bit about accelerating Asia as well. That when I got into the cohort, there were some fundamentals that were questioned a lot in those Monday morning things. How is the business looking? How's it growing? How are you looking at the market? Like, while those questions would come, I would start linking them with the signals that I would get from the market. So every time I would go into a Coca-Cola, Nestle, sorry, or the Pepsi office, what I would see is that managers at those places, they would be talking about how they would rather want to solve a bigger problem for themselves rather than be only solving a problem for distributions. They wanted us to solve a problem for managers. So that's how we transitioned from Driftly towards Ground. So I'll just stop here before we like open it all up for Ground.
All right. Okay. So, well, when you were doing that, what were the signals? Because I know that within Accelerating Asia, we have this thing where we do a weekly stand-up. So no longer can you hide behind a quarterly review or a monthly review. We were putting your feet to the fire every week and telling you, okay, tell us what you've done in this past week. And if nothing has happened, it becomes really apparent, and it becomes really, really obvious that some things aren't moving quickly enough. And we've heard that from other founders. Previous cohorts have always said it changed their behavior and their manners in terms of what they were doing. So what were those signals that were giving you the indication that you needed to pivot?
Yeah, excellent question, Osman. I think one of the things is that I still remember, apart from the Monday morning things, we also used to have these master classes. And then it was shared upon, like in one of those master classes, that, hey, you want to make sure that you're fundamentally different from a lifestyle business and you're building a startup. And as Paul Graham would say, a startup within a startup, like high speed, high growth, that's what you are always optimizing for. And with the previous business, it would be a great business. It still is, and there would be a lot of companies that would be solving the same problem. So but what we realized is that could be a great lifestyle business, but not something that would like explode. Like, would that be a moonshot that you want to be sticking with for the next 5 years? Is that big enough? That's what we started questioning, started realizing. And every time that we were used to talk about the Driftly problem, the sort of like expressions on the problem were very different from every time we talk about the problem with like managers face when we talk to them about Ground. I remember the first time I pitched to you in detail and you were like, oh man, this is my problem as well. And this is the biggest indicator that we're solving a huge problem for everybody. Like every time we go out, hey, so this is the problem that we're solving. Every manager comes to us, oh man, this is my problem as well. So that's what pushed us into this territory that let's solve an even bigger problem, something that we've ourselves been very close to as well. Like during Airlift, like I was looking after expansion, I was looking after supply chain, I was looking after at times operations. And then with Metal, I was working in product, I was working in strategy, I was working in different functions. It's like having that experience of understanding how different functions operate, like what are the contexts, how do you equip yourself to be very good in all these different functions as a manager. That's the context that we had. And that's the context that we have brought together to build and solve problems at Ground. So that's how we got about it.
So just for clarity as well for everybody who's watching, when you first told me about Ground, I was like, I don't get this. I really don't understand what you're trying to do here. And then you walked me through the problem, and I literally said to myself, this is the problem that I'm trying to solve with things like OpenClaw. So I was like literally deploying OpenClaw. I've got I'm not kidding. Right now, there's a laptop here which has got OpenClaw running on it, and it's sitting across like 5 different email addresses, 5 different Slack functions. It's looking at my calendar. It's preparing what I need to do for the every day. Like these are the things. These are the things that you haven't replied to. There's a message here on Slack that you haven't responded to. You need to focus on that, and it'll give me that because I needed something to actually pull all these different data sources together and actually act like my PA. But even if I paid for a PA out in the, like Philippines or Indonesia or Malaysia or wherever people usually do them now, it wouldn't work. I mean, literally, I would be struggling with that. And so I felt like I'd hit a solution here with OpenClaw, and it's doing a lot of things which I wanted to. But when you were talking to me, the biggest issue I had was that the previous day, one of the connections had failed. So I spent an hour playing around with OpenClaw to fix that connection. The API tokens had timed out, they'd expired, and I needed to redo all of that. And I'm just thinking, I've wasted an hour here trying to fix something that I don't. And here you were building a solution that if I paid you $90 a month, that's $90 a month I would definitely pay for, just so that I can have something off the rack that just fits and works, that does everything that I need it to do. And the points that you were making about the operational memory and the personal memory, the organizational memory, these are the things that are a real problem with AI today. Like I literally had upgraded my chat GPT, and when I asked it about my company Curium, it started talking about the element Curium, and I realized that all of the historical memory that it had about my company had just been lost. And I complained to OpenAI and told them like all of these projects that I'd built up, this upgrade to the software had completely lost it. That really led me to the realization that the historical memory that these things are building are really important. Without it, you've got a useless AI that you have to talk to from scratch every single time. So when you were explaining what you were doing, I just immediately realized this is what I need, something that's persistent, that aggregates everything and works with clarity and speed. So for me, yeah, I'm ready. Like once you're ready to open it out to more people, I'm ready to become a paid subscriber. And that is the other reason why I felt like, okay, you're onto something here, because I'm literally putting my hand up to say, hurry up. Well, what's taking you so long? Because for me, I think if I've got that particular problem, I know that I'm not the only one for sure. Right. So yeah, really, really impressed with that idea in terms of what it was doing. It's a lot bigger, and I think it's going to be a lot more forward thinking. We know that that's right, because if you look at anything that Anthropic are doing and anything that ChatGPT are doing now, they're trying to build out that capability within their platform. Like, let me look at your calendar, let me look at your email, let me try and do these things. But what they miss is the operational level of memory. And
I,
you
100%. And Osman, really like how you've talked about the crux of the product. Like we like building agents. That's not what we're doing. Like yes, we're doing that, but that's like an add-on to help you execute. The
Yeah.
real novelty over here is those memory layers that we're talking about. That's your context. Just imagine all the tribal knowledge that exists in your head that comes into a digital world. That's what we are doing. Like the way Osman operates, we're breaking that down into different memory layers, and you will be putting up each and every workflow, each and every document that you operate through into those memory layers, and that's how your agents will be giving you answers that are way more accurate, which and where agents are not hallucinating. Just imagine yourself that you're running a startup in that which is in the quick commerce space, and then you are looking after the delivery operations on the quick commerce startup, and within delivery you've got so many other functions. Because you've set up your organization in a manner that it has all the context for delivery operations for your organization within that particular space. That's how your agents get more and more accurate. There's no other space that agents would be talking about or taking inputs from. That's how you get more and more accurate on and efficient in terms of how you want to work with AI and agents in the future.
Okay. I mean, and this is going to be like the next 5 to 10 years of your life now, right? So you've definitely, got into bed with a problem that you're going to have to fix now. But yeah, if I was to ask you just about being this founder and doing this, I mean, what's the loneliest part of being a founder? Especially when you're having to educate people about a problem that they may not understand.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many parts about being a founder which are lonely. I think we can go on and have a completely like we can go on and talk about it for the next 20-30 minutes. But in terms of sticking to the problem and being lonely about it, I think there are a lot of naysayers. There are a lot of people who would be like, hey, this is already what something Claude is doing. This is already something that you can do on your own. And then you have to pick your battles, whether you want to explain it to them that, hey, like Claude has been there since like 2 years. Why haven't you pinched it out for yourself?
Yeah.
And like, I know that you're not putting in 3 or 4 hours every day figuring out your workflows. You're just going to do it at a surface level, but you're not going to get the depth that you actually need. You're not like a manager that's using ground and a manager who's not using ground are going to be fundamentally different in terms of execution, in terms of being efficient, in terms of being a much better manager. Just imagine like the sort of insights that you're sharing with your manager as a manager. You're gonna like impress the shit out of them, and you're gonna be like, and he's gonna be like, how is he getting all these insights? Because even the manager won't be able to have that information that's already collected within ground. The breaking points of whatever you're doing, ground will be able to figure them out much faster than anybody else. So that's how I look at it. And the good part is this: it's such a big market. It does not matter whether you're winning it on day one. Like what we are focusing on as like the ICP for today, it's an early stage startup manager. And there are 150,000 plus early stage startups. And then there are about 5 to 10 managers in all these early stage startups. These would be startups that have about 30 to 150 people. And then you multiply that you're talking about like 500,000 people. That's your target market today. All you need is like 900 to 1,000 people using ground, and you get to $1 million in ARR. And that's how big this market is. And you have to solve this problem for them. Like go very deep into it. Don't expand yourself. Don't look at those shiny objects out there. Be laser focused on the ICP. Be laser focused on solving the problem for the ICP. And the good part for us is the way that we're doing it for the early customers, we're operating from their offices. Like we literally pick up our laptop, walk to the manager, work with them, what's working, what's not. We take their feedback, come back to them. And that's how we are like building this product.
Yeah. So I'm just going to touch on that because when we first spoke, Iqbal, I remember I was thinking of this as a solution you were building for enterprise, and I knew the ICP was completely wrong for that. And the reason why I felt that was because these larger enterprises, they literally will focus on what they can get away with, and the only thing they're going to get away with is Copilot, and Copilot's rubbish. Like it's really, really pathetic for what you need it to do. So the execution for large enterprises is going to be a lot slower, a lot more conservative, and it's never going to deliver the outcomes that they want because of the way that they have. And I get that, but the interesting thing for me when I'm looking at all of these larger enterprises is that because of that, this gives a window of opportunity for your ICP, for your direct clientele. Because I wrote an article about this on E27 that these smaller enterprises, even SMEs, have now got this window of opportunity to outperform and outmaneuver the larger enterprises because you're going to leverage the capability of AI to really function faster, quicker, and at a bigger scale than a large enterprise, just with the resources that you have. And the reason why large enterprises will really struggle is because they're not allowed to use any of the tools that are really there to help them, because of just the nature of their security posture or the nature of their conservative behaviors that they've embedded into their organization. Everything's done by consensus. Middle managers don't have authority to do anything, so they end up doing nothing. Whereas here, your ICP usually have got the authority to make a decision, get out their credit card, and actually deploy. So this is a thing that you're going to really enable a lot of small enterprises and startups to actually really build something that can compete with the larger enterprises and outmaneuver them. So
100%.
yeah,
I think also one thing, like, again, I'm not an authority on AI and everything that's happening in the world. There's so many other like people who are doing like amazing things. Like in my personal opinion, one thing that I'm really have a strong point of view on is that the unit economics of every business in the world are going to change once they start AI adoption. Like, just imagine when we were doing Airlift or building Airlift, we had this huge team that used to just figure out how to order inventory, like the data team that was running so many different algorithms that were figuring things out. Today, the LLMs, they can do it in such an easier manner. So
yeah,
what that means is that you don't need that team anymore. And the unit economics of running the business fundamentally change. And if you're not adopting AI to run your businesses, or you're not understanding where the world is going, it's impossible for you to compete with the new economic challenges, or the new financial model of running a business art. So that's what I feel like.
yeah. Okay, so let's just talk about Pakistan and the ecosystem as well. Like, let's just switch gears a little bit. I mean, the Pakistan startup ecosystem, how's it matured since Airlift?
Yeah, I think we take a lot of pride that Airlift let everybody dream big. That even if you're sitting in Pakistan, just said like you can do whatever in the world you want to. And credit and kudos to Gold, who gave up DoorDash, gave up like everything, and came to Pakistan with a dream. And then he was able to build an outstanding team, like that was mission driven on making sure that we're gonna do everything in the world, like getting in funds like first round capital, 20 VC, Buckley Ventures to invest in Pakistan and putting Pakistan on that globe. I think that's something that's really exciting. And even today, like we're seeing so many startups that are doing so well. We have likes of Dastagir and Bazaar, who ended up doing really big rounds as well. But again, we believe like doing a big round, that's not a metric of success. It's about like your business fundamentals, how it's doing.
Yeah,
And then again, in this world, there's a huge arbitrage that you can have by building teams that are operating out of Pakistan or other like developing countries, and then you start serving the countries of the West, or more developed countries. So again, the economics of serving the end consumer are completely different, and that's the real arbitrage that startups in Pakistan need to understand. We can talk a lot about, as founders, we can talk a lot about Pakistan's economic problems, or like the instability on the finance front. But that's okay. As founders, we have to figure out ways where we can arbitrage whatever we have. You've been dealt
yeah,
a pack of cards, and now you need to play with it. So what's the next best move that we have? That's how you want to operate. Like, and for that, Pakistan definitely offers you a really good foundation to execute upon. And the foundation is that, hey, if you're a really good founder, you get a really good team. You have like all the basic services. You have a not a very well-oiled machine on the ecosystem, but the ecosystem exists that supports you as well.
yeah,
So if you don't make the most of it, that's on you, not like what everything is happening around you. Like if a founder like me can get into Accelerating Asia, get into a room with access to like some of the best investors in the world, then I need to make sure that I I leverage all of that.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing that I was really going to try and drill into as well with regards to the advantages that Pakistani founders have over the rest of Asia. You've you've mentioned the arbitrage. I mean, are there any other key things around the advantages that founders have from Pakistan that the rest of Asia really underestimates? Because when we think of Asia, and I would say we people from Singapore, Southeast Asia, will think of Asia as like Pakistan, India, all the way through to Korea and Japan, and we think of that as Asia. But what does the rest of Asia underestimate about Pakistani founders?
Yeah, I think 100% like our grit. I think Pakistani founders have to be the grittiest because we've not been dealt with the best hand and we're still gonna make it through and we are. We're making
Yeah,
global waves. So we're probably one of the grittiest ones out there. Similarly, like access to talent, Pakistan has like one of the best engineering talent out there. And that's what we leverage the most. Like if there's something being built in the Silicon Valley, like engineers over here in Pakistan will be able to build something
yeah,
that's up the same scale. So that's good. Like I feel like that those are real arbitrages. And for me personally, I can't speak on the behalf of other founders as well. I just feel like you have these set of conditions rather than crying about them. You have to make the most of whatever you have. Like the same engineering talent that would cost you like $10,000 a month or like maybe like let's talk about $200,000 a year. You're gonna get the same manager at an engineer at a lower cost. So figure out how you want to make sure that you're using your dollar more effectively or efficiently. I think there was this post by Accelerating Asia as well, how the dollar survives longer in these regions, and that's something real, and you want to make use of it.
yeah. I mean, that's exactly it. Now, we've been talking for quite some time now, so I'm going to try and wrap it up because we know that people don't have that long of a attention span. Um, but like, if I was to just ask a few simple things like about Pakistan, um, uh, I mean, what's the biggest misconception that people have about Pakistan?
The biggest misconception about Pakistan.
I've thrown this out there, so you're having to really think on your feet now.
I'm just thinking that there's not one of them. So there are so many of them. I think the
Yeah,
biggest misconception is that every time somebody would write Pakistan or a Pakistani off, that's exactly when we would hit back. Whether it's our cricket team, whether it's us on the global scale, whether it's us anywhere in the world, the moment you write us off, that's when we're going to come back even stronger. So
yeah,
that's the biggest misconception everybody has.
yeah. I mean, and what's the most overrated style of advice that you've been given?
The most overrated childhood
Yeah,
advice.
I mean, this is going to be controversial, right? But
100%. I think
let's get it out of the way.
the most overrated advice definitely like become like get good grades, get into a good organization. I don't think I can operate in anything else other than a startup, especially with places that are so regimented, that have so many rules and everything. I don't think somebody like me can exist in these large enterprise organizations.
Yeah.
I'm somebody of like a go-getter. I'd be breaking rules. I'd be pushing things forward at my own pace. So yeah.
Okay. And you must have had an opinion that you held really strongly 5 years ago that you now know is completely wrong. What would that be?
I don't think there's one, and I think that's good as well. Like you shouldn't be holding so many opinions. Yeah, that would be definitely our cricket team. That it's always going to beat other teams. I think I'm going to take that opinion away now. 5 years ago, I was like the biggest cheerleader. Unfortunately, not anymore.
Yeah. Okay. And just finally, like when you meet investors, I mean, when they ask you what your revenue is, I mean, what would you wish that they'd rather ask you instead of that?
100%. Like I really like that question. Like, what's the problem that you're solving? Like, the problem needs to be like painstakingly big. And for I don't want to say this for on behalf of all founders, but I just feel like everybody needs to optimize for solving the problem in the right manner There are a lot of ways to get revenue, get to everything, but business fundamentals and solving the problem for the end customer, that these are the biggest things that you should optimize for. So like if I'm on this conversation and the
Yeah.
conversation is between how do you get more revenue or hey, how do we go deeper into solving this problem, I go with the latter. That would be more exciting.
Okay, cool. Look, been really good talking today, and I'm sure that there's going to be even more questions that I'm going to have as you continue to grow ground. So I'm definitely going to have you back as well, and we're going to talk about your progress and what you've been doing. But for the moment, I mean, Iqbal, really appreciate what you've shared with us today, and hopefully we'll be able to catch you at the next one.
Cool. Thank you, Osman, for having me over. Great to be here and chat soon.
All right. Just stay on and we'll wrap up with the end intro as well.